Morning, Trainiacs. I've been talking about this for a while. Swimrun. It's one word. I am going to go do somewhere around a 2.5 to 3 kilometer swim, broken up, and an 8 kilometer run, going swimrun with no training. I think it's going to be a really fun adventure with a pal. I don't think it's going to feel very good, but we'll find out. Well, Trainiacs, that was just a treat. I hope you had as much fun watching that little montage as I had. That was such a blast that I think I'm gonna swim run again. So allow me to explain what swim run is. Swim run started at the Otillo World Championships, and the idea was a bet that few people said, well, what if we just swam and ran across all of these islands and an archipelago from here to here. And it ended up turning into Swimrun. And the idea behind Swimrun is that it's a somewhat unstructured adventure that you go on with a partner. Now, in North America, the partner aspect has been getting away from it, and some people have been doing things solo in solo swimrun events. But a lot of the Europeans say that no, like the essence of swimrun is that you and a partner are just going on an adventure. And it's so much about the adventure as opposed to specific splits and specific times that I didn't even wear a watch. I didn't worry about my pace at all. We just needed to get from one spot to the next. And this is the spirit of swimrun, where race organizers will do things like say, well, the swim is somewhere a total of like 3 to 4 kilometers of swimming and in between about 12 and 14 kilometers of running. And people are like, well, how much is it? And I'm like, well, it's between that and that. Close enough, right? And the gear is a specific wetsuit. You can also then wear hand paddles, but you have to carry them while you're running. You can swim with a pull buoy, but then you have to carry that while you're running. And you've got to run, ideally in trail shoes, which then you swim in while you're swimming. It's all just very like, take whatever gear you need, but you got to be with a partner and you got to carry it with you all the time. Now, that was a very big, humbling learning experience for me, because here I am thinking that I'm fit and I can run and I can swim pretty well, but can I swim run? And I'm going into it thinking, yeah, obviously I can swim run, but it's like that first time that you do a triathlon and you hop from the bike to the run and you almost fall over because you didn't do any bike run workouts. I made that mistake at my first try. Very embarrassing. So with that said, I learned a ton of lessons just in the 2-hour swim run that we did yesterday. And here are the lessons that I want to impart to you that you should certainly take note of before doing your first swim run race. And this is regardless of whether you're planning to compete or you are just going into it for an endurance adventure and just trying to finish. In either case, these are things that you are going to want to consider. The first is you have to practice with a partner. Swimming by yourself is one thing. Swimming next to somebody is another thing. Swimming tethered next to somebody is a very, very different thing. I thought that it would just be something like, oh, well, I'm getting towed and you're getting pulled along, or I'm just towing somebody, or at most I'm drafting. Well, no, there's a really strong aspect of figuring out the cadence of how and where you need to swim when you're getting towed to make sure that the tether isn't getting in the way, to make sure that you aren't pulling back the potentially faster swimmer. And the only way that I ended up getting into a position where we were both moving fairly quickly and we weren't just swimming with like really no forward progress is to find a spot that was the sweet spot where we could both swim. And you only get that if you swim tethered to a partner in practice. The second thing to take note of is do a ton of paddles work. here I am thinking, hey, I'm one of the few people in the world that has actually swam in the past 18 months, and I'm gonna be perfectly fine swimming around 2.5 kilometers, which is what we had mapped out. So let's go and rip it. Well, what I had not done in the swim spa over the last 18 months is swim with paddles. By the end of that swim, my muscles were completely fried, and today it feels like I went and did bicep curls and lat pull downs for like 2 hours in a row. Swimming with paddles is a really, really big strength movement in the swim. And if you aren't really conditioned to it, your muscles are gonna fail. And worst case Ontario, you might actually get an injury. Third thing that I learned, don't try to make your own pull buoy. I had this great idea for a pull buoy video that I was gonna do, like a DIY pull buoy that I was gonna share with everyone, because hey, I'm a brilliant guy and I'm gonna go ahead and save money because I've already got a pull buoy, and I'm gonna turn it into a Swimrun pull buoy. And then what I did was I actually ended up drilling holes in this, and who knew that there was a void in these areas that took on water. So instead of having a pull buoy to help with flotation, I had a drag buoy that really hurt flotation. And you might say, well, hey, Taren, that's just the Eenie buoy, buy some other pull buoy. Well, yeah, people have bought other pull buoys, use something like elastic laces to end up creating that bit of tether to keep hold of the pull buoy while you're running. But then more often than not, what happens from what I've seen is the tether actually pulls through the foam in the pull buoy. You know what, in relation to all of the gear that us endurance athletes have to buy, the pull buoy is like the cheapest thing that lasts the longest. Spend the 40 or 50 bucks to get a specific pull buoy that is made for swim run and isn't gonna fall apart. That was embarrassing. Everyone who's playing the Triathlon Taren says kettlebell drinking game, go ahead and take a sip, because the next thing that I learned was that strength training was key. Nicholas Ramirez is, I believe, the person in the world who has been on the podium in the World Championships more than anyone else. I could be wrong on that, but it's some sort of accolade along those lines. He is who is actually writing the Swimrun programs for our app. And when we started saying, all right, how much of a component does strength need to be? And he said, absolutely just as high as swimming and running. There is not a point at which he allowed us to remove strength training from the program. And the reason for that is that he said that with the pull buoy while you're swimming and then clenching your butt cheeks and putting a lot of pressure on the core and the pubis area, and then all of a sudden having to go vertical and stretch out because most of the areas that you're entering and exit the water are like very rocky, they're gnarly, they're not this smooth transition, that there is a huge strength component. Now, myself, I ended up actually not really feeling a lot of those detrimental effects, and I believe that is because, take a sip, I did a lot of kettlebell training in the last year. The fifth thing that I learned is that temperature management is key. Because you're going from water to land to water to water to land over and over, you are going through a bunch of different temperatures. It's not like triathlon where you're just going from one temperature to another and you have a transition where you can prepare for the bike in between. No, you have to have your temperature dialed in for the swim and the run over and over and over. So things like taking your swim cap off while you're running, things like being able to undo a zipper while you're running, and then being able to quickly get that all done up so that you're warm in the swim was really critical. If you can control that heart rate by not overheating, you're going to have a much better experience because it's going to take a lot less load on the body while you are keeping that heart rate a little bit lower. The next thing to know is that as it relates to storage, you want to be set up to store a lot of things. Think of it kind of like how you set up a bike in transition for a triathlon, where you have it set up and dialed in to carry everything you need without it being cumbersome. Having a wetsuit like the Roka one that I've got here has a lot of storage. So I ended up actually carrying my GoPro in the side pocket here, tons and tons of room there. And then on the inside of a lot of the Swimrun wetsuits, you actually have even another set of storage pockets on the inside of the wetsuit. In addition to that, what Justin, my buddy, had was an underlayer that actually had like kangaroo pockets to put everything in. Because you are swimming with everything that you're running with and you're running with everything that you swim with, you end up having a lot of stuff. And you need places to put that stuff that is not cumbersome. If it's cumbersome, you're gonna be really janky and fiddling with a whole bunch of things, slowing you down, and maybe even creating some injuries as things rub in certain areas. I don't know why, but I really liked this wetsuit. Big fan. And then the second to last thing is as it relates to gear, if you have properly set up a Swimrun wetsuit with maybe an undershirt that has the kangaroo pockets and you have lots of pockets, it's best because it's such a gnarly thing going up on riprap and entries and exits that aren't as smooth and controlled as a triathlon. It's gonna be a little bit gnarly and a little less safe. You might get an injury, you might get cut, you might have some bumps and bruises, and to have a safety bag with maybe some first aid stuff, you definitely need to have a whistle in swimrun training for safety. Maybe having your phone turned on with the Find My Phone feature so that if you are out training with somebody that people can follow you and get an idea of where you are. And because this is such a new thing, people aren't expecting to see swim runners out there. And you know what? That's the point. I love that we were just going through the middle of the city because I think that is the essence of swimrun. That it's not about, all right, well, I'm gonna go from this marked spot to that marked spot. All we said was we wanna go from here to here, and however you want to do that is fine, and roughly here are the places that you get in and out. And that was so much fun because we were figuring it out as we were going along. And then the very final thing is if you are doing a swim run race, get yourself a proper swim run training plan, not a triathlon training plan that just doesn't have the bike in it. Very different thing. I was actually talking to somebody online when I was looking for a coach to help create these swim run coaching plans who said, you know what, I would really urge you to not go with a traditional triathlon coach to create these plans because he looked at a bunch of them and he said it's basically a triathlon plan without the bike. Having gone through creating the swim run plans with Nicholas at Team Envol, he has created really specific swim run train to prepare people for the different transitions. There's so much going from swim to run and run to swim, and there's a lot of hills, there's a lot of much more dynamic movement, there's a lot more heart rate variability that's going up and down because it's not steady throughout the workout, that the training has to be a lot different than a triathlon. Now, if you want, you can go to our app when there's a link in the description below that will actually take you to where there are swimrun training plans as of, let's just go and say late August 2021. They'll be in there. So all right, Trainiacs, that is it for swimrun. I plan on doing a whole bunch more, but if you are doing a race, good luck to you. And if you need a swimrun training plan, hit the link in the description below for the My Motive training app where you can try it out for free for 14 days. And by the end of the summer, we will have swimrun training plans by Nicholas Ramirez, one of the most decorated swimrun athletes and coaches in the world, in there for you. And if you aren't already subscribed, hit the subscribe button below. Later.